Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Yud Dalid Amud Beis. Starting with the new Mishnah on the bottom, Daf Kuf Yud Dalid Amud Aleph. The previous Mishnah began Leil HaSeder with Kaddish. The first kois to the Dalid koisos, making Kiddush. And we follow the opinion of Beis Hillel. First we make a bracha on the wine and then make a bracha to Mekadesh the Yoim. Our Mishnah now discusses the karpas. Says the Mishnah, Heviu lefonov metabil bechazeres. They bring in front of him the metabil bechazeres, meaning to eat the chazeres. The chazeres is indeed lettuce, chasa, which is used as one of the best type of moror. It's the first in the list of 5 that the Mishnah had brought earlier on. And here the Mishnah is mechadesh that he does not have another vegetable to use for karpas, so he uses chasa, which he will use for the moror. And it says over here that they bring that to him for his karpas, ad shemagia leparperes hapas, before they bring what's called parperes hapas, the addition to the pas, to the matzah, which is really the achilas moror right after the matzah. The Mishnah states, Heviu lefon of matzah. Then they bring before him the matzah, the chazeres, the charoises, shnei tavshin, which is really the seder plate, the ka'aro. And therefore it has on it the matzah, which is 3 different matzos. It has the sholem on top, the sholem on the bottom, and in the middle is a broken matzah. The 2 shleimim, we make the bracha v'hamoitzi. The middle matzah, which is a prusa, which we use to say the Haggadah on. It's the way of expression of lechem oini, which is a prusa, that we make al achilas matzah. We also bring the chazeres, which is the moror, the charoises, which is a simin latit. The charoises itself is something that is mixed together with different fruits, usually apples and dates, things that are compared, Klal Yisrael compared to. It also has shkedim sometimes, and other types of nuts. Ushnei tavshilin, the 2 tavshilin, one keneged the korban Pesach, the other one keneged is corresponding to the korban chagigo of Yudalid. So we bring the seder plate afterwards. Afapisha en charoises mitzvah, even though the charoises that we're going to use for the moror is not a mitzvah, says the Tanakama, but nonetheless we'll bring it because we need to eat it with the moror because of the charifus of the moror. Rabbi Elazar ben Asadik oimer mitzvah. Rabbi Elazar ben Asadik argues and said it is a mitzvah to use the charoises. It's a zeicher. The Mishnah concludes of a mikdash, how you may be in the fun of gufoy shel Pesach. In the Beis HaMikdash, when we had a Beis HaMikdash, then we would bring the korban Pesach itself on Leil HaSeder to the Seder plate. Says the Gemara the following. On Tav Kuf Yudalam at Beis at the top, Omrei Shlokish makes the following observation. Zois oimeres mitzvois tzrichois kavana. From here in the Mishnah, the very fact that it states that we have to make a tibul sheni, we can't rely on the karpas when we used it for moror. We only had chasa in the Mishnah chazeres, which is moror. Since we didn't fulfill the mitzvah apparently, and we have to make a tibul sheni after the matzah by eating moror, then it must be that we were not fulfilling the mitzvah of moror b'shas the karpas. And therefore why? It must be because mitzvah srichos kavana. When he then took that chazeres and said borei priya adama, like any other vegetable, before eating it, he didn't have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of moror. So therefore it must be that mitzvahs that are mitzvahs are tzrichos kavana. Because if mitzvahs einan tzrichos kavana, he would have fulfilled his mitzvah with this chazeres and would not have to then eat moror again after the matzah. As the Gemara explains, Kivan deloy ba'idon chiyuva de morahu. Since that at that point during the karpas, it was not the time of moror. The ochil lay bori priya adama, who the ochil lay, and he ate it by making a bracha bori priya adama, not making a bracha of al achilas moror. V'dilma lo ichavein lemoror. Perhaps he didn't have kavanah for the moror. Hilkach boy lemahadel tibule l'shem moror. Therefore, he has to come back and then eat maror again after the matzah. The isal kedaitoch mitzvah loy boy kavana. Reish Lakish is going to say, and if you want to suggest that mitzvahs do not require kavana, then he completes his proof. Then lama lach trei tibuli. Why would he have to make two different dippings? He already made one dipping, the time of the karpas. It must be the fact that he has to make a second dipping, which is going to be after the matzah with the chazeres again, implies that again, mitzvah tzrichos kavani was not yoitze, his mitzvah achilas mor, at the time that he used it for karpas. The Gemara is doiche the raya from Rabbi Reish Lakish. Mimai. From what is this raya? Dilma la'oila mitzvahs ein tzrichos kavana. Perhaps I can tell you that mitzvahs really do not require kavana. In other words, although the ideal way to perform any mitzvah is that one has kavana, that he's coming to fulfill the ratzon of Hashem, but if he did not have that kavana, and it was the proper time to do that mitzvah, like Leil Seder for eating moror, so therefore, he doesn't need to have kavanah in order to fulfill the mitzvah according to this. So la'olam mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavanah. He would fulfill his mitzvah even without the kavanah. Udekamris trei tibulei lamali. And that which you asked, if so, then why does he have to make another tibul after the matzah, if indeed he fulfilled the mitzvah and the shas of the karpas? Because I'll tell you, the only reason he's doing that is to then make a heker, to elicit an interest and ma'ara the tignokos to ask questions, because Leil HaSeder, the Haggadah of Leil HaSeder is based on the fact that there's question and answer. So we want to ma'arer the interest and get the children to ask questions. So therefore you have no proof, Reish Lakish, that indeed mitzvah tzrikas kavana. The ki tema, you'll tell me imkein leshmein and shar yerakos. If that's the case, then why teach a mishnah of chazeres when he doesn't have any other vegetables? He has a vegetable, he makes karpas on that, and then after that first dipping, after the matzah, he makes a second dipping of the moror. And therefore we'll know that the second dipping of the moror is in order to also then elicit the interest of the children, because there's two dippings. Says the Gemara, because if I did teach in the Mishnah other vegetables as karpas, hava amina, then I might think, when there are other yerokos, then we do two tibuli. The first one for karpas and the second one as a moror, to elicit the child's interest. But if I only had chazeres, then I would think it's enough to fulfill my mitzvah of moror b'shas the karpas, and I would not need a second tibul. Kamash malon da afilu chazeres ba'inin trei tibuli ki heichi de lahave be heker letinokas. Kamash Shamlam, we're coming to learn from our Mishnah that we only have chazeres. We still make a second dipping in order to then me'arer the tinokos to ask questions. Ve'oid Tanya. And further we have a brisa that refutes Reish Lakish, who states that we see from our Mishnah that mitzvah tzrichas kavana. Because it states in the following brisa, ochlan demai yotza. If one who eats demai is doma. It means, what is this? In other words, if an Amhart has sold grain to somebody who it's not clear whether he then took maisrus out, he's choyshed from not taking maisrus, then the one who bought that has demai in his possession, and it's also for him to eat it without taking maiser out. And here it states, however, that if one ate demai, he's yotza. Why? Because the demai over here we're saying is that if he wanted, since anim can eat demai, if he wanted, he can be mafkir his nechasim and become an ani. So therefore, b'di'eved, if he ate demai, he's yotza. Ochlon, the Brisa goes on to say, beloy miskavein yotza. If he ate them without kavana, he's also yotza. Meaning to say, he doesn't have to kavana. He doesn't need kavana. Ochlon lechatzoin yotza. If he ate the moror lechatzoin, he eats half the moror, and then he eats another half. Subsequently, he's also yotza. Ubilvad, the Brisa concludes, shelo yishhe bein achil lechaver to yosem mikdei achilas pras. That's providing that from the time that he began eating the first half of the moror, he completed the second half within what's called kedei achilas pras, which is basically comes out to be either 3 or 4 beitzim, and what a person would eat a half of a loaf of bread in the times of Chazal, which was either 6 or 8 beitzim, which comes out to be between 2 and 9 minutes. The Gemara therefore asks its question. We see a refutation from this brisa against Reish Lakish, because in this brisa it states one who eats the mar even without kavana, he's yoytze. It must be that mitzvahs einan tzrichas kavana, not like Reish Lakish has proof from our Mishnah. In fact, we see that the Mishnah goes like our brisa. The Gemara says no, it's not a refutation on Rabbi Reish Lakish because Tanoi it's a machlekes Tanoim. The Tanya, it states in the brisa, Rabbi Yosi Oimer afal pishetibel bechazeres mitzvah lahavi lefonov chazeres v'charoises shnei tavshilin. It states in Rabbi Yosi that even though he did eat the chazeres for the karpas, still it's a mitzvah to bring the ke'ara, including the chazeres, for his moror. The Gemara says, "V'akati mimai." Still, what kind of proof is this that Rabbi Yosi holds that mitzvahs ein tzrichas kavana? Dilma kesar Rabbi Yosi mitzvahs ein tzrichas kavana. Maybe he really holds mitzvahs ein tzrichas kavana. Not like Reish Lakish. V'hai debo in trei tibuli ki heichid detahave heker l'tinoikos. And the reason why you have to bring the chazeres a second time is merely to be ma'orer the tinoikos, to ask questions. On that, the Gemara says no. In kain my mitzvah, if that was the case, then why did Rabbi Yosi say it's a mitzvah to bring the chazeres? Mashma, there's a mitzvah fnei atzmo, the hainu of moror. If it only meant to be ma'orer the tinoikos, it shouldn't have said mitzvah. It should say mevin, they bring. Elamai, we prove from here that Rabbi Yosi is choylek on our brisa that stated that mitzvahs ein tzrichas kavana. According to Rabbi Yosi, mitzvahs tzrichas kavana, like Reish Lakish maintains. The Gemara now goes to that which the Mishnah and the brisa had stated, that in the ka'ara, the seder plate, we have 2 tavshilin. The Gemara now identifies what are these 2 tavshilin. Mai shnei tavshilin. Om Rav Huna silka va'aruza. Rav Huna says beets and rice. It doesn't mean only beets and rice, it means even beets and rice. Certainly, when it comes to 2 meats, that's also going to be satisfactory. But even beets and rice is also going to fulfill the obligation of the shtei tavshilin. The Gemara tells that Rava, the Talmid of Rav Huna, he was particular to use for his 2 tavshilin beets and rice. Why? Because he heard that Rav Huna had said that even this is satisfactory. He wanted to then show that this is going to be a good way, a fulfillment of the mitzvah of shtei tavshilin. Certainly you can use, again, 2 meats, but he wanted to show that Rav Huna's teaching is correct, and therefore he wanted to use what his Rebbe had stated. Rav Ashi said, Shmamino de Rav Huna, we can derive from Rav Huna, who says you can fill your mitzvah of shtei tavshilin with rice, the less lechayish lohod Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, that he's not choishesh, he's not concerned about the opinion of Rav Yochanan ben Nuri. The Tanya, it states in the Brayso, Rav Yochanan ben Nuri oimer orez min dogan hu v'chayavn alav chimutzo chares. Rav Yochanan ben Nuri says that rice, in addition to the 5 grains of wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye, rice also will make chametz. And a person can use that for his matzah, in baking matzahs for Pesach. In other words, in addition to the other grains, rice can also be satisfactory according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So Al Kapanim, we see from over here that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri states that rice will bring chametz. So the fact that Rav Huna says that could be used as one of the tavshilin must be that he does not choishesh, he's not hold of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. He's not concerned that maybe rice will bring to chametz. Chizkiya Omar, Chizkiya said a second opinion of what can use for 2 tavshilin. Afilu dog ubeitzo shalov. Even if you have dog, fish, and beitza on top, that's considered to be two tavshilin, even though it's baked, it's cooked together rather. Even though it's cooked together, and you might think it's one tavshil, it's nechshav two tavshilin. Rav Yosef Amar, third opinion, tzarich shnei minei basar. Rav Yosef said you need to have two different types of meat. Why? Echad zeicher lepesach, echad zeicher lechagiga. Since each one of the tavshilin is keneged, is corresponding to either the zeicher lepesach and the other one is zeicher lechagiga, since those were korbanos of meat, therefore there's a hakpada, says Rav Yosef, to use meat, and not like the other ones said that you can use either rice and beets, or even an egg on top of a dog. Ravino Amar, a fourth opinion, afilu garma ubishlula. Even if you want to use a bone that has some meat and its broth around it, that's also satisfactory to use as shtei tavshilin.